Welcome to the Stillhouse Reflections, a quiet space to step outside the noise and consider what's real, what's yours, and what freedom can mean in everyday life. Hey folks, it's Della. Welcome back to the final episode of this season of the Stillhouse Reflections. I'm glad you're here. So, we want to talk about the final thing, the goal, the ultimate goal in my world, which is radical freedom. So let's define radical freedom first, because I think that's probably the most important thing we can do. We have to understand what we're talking about. When I say radical freedom, what do I actually mean? I mean no limitation on what you cannot do, or say. Nobody telling you what's right and wrong. Nobody telling you what's good and bad. Nobody trying to prevent people from harming other people. Nobody trying to tell people what choice to make. Nothing. Complete and total freedom without fear of manufactured punishment, without fear of that kind of manufactured retribution. Laws, external laws, none of that stuff. Radical freedom as complete and total freedom to fully live your authentic truth. That is radical freedom. Okay? So that means that all of the laws in my world, right? All of the laws that we have now around behavior and how to act and be in the world would disappear. The jail system, the system of reward and punishment that we currently have would go away. All of it would simply cease to exist. Complete radical freedom. And in my vision of the world, we would create complete radical freedom while also making sure that everybody had access to food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, and education for free. So you would live in a society that completely and fully supports you to create an authentic life for yourself, while also giving you total freedom and control over your own choices without any external consequence at all. External manufactured consequence. Because what we're not limiting, of course, is simple cause and effect. If you steal a cookie from the grocery store, the grocer might not allow you back in again, and that's your problem. You created that for yourself, right? But we're setting up a society where stealing a cookie from the cookie store from the grocery store is simply unnecessary, because you're going to be fully supported, so there's no reason for you to steal it in the first place. So if you're doing that, you're making a choice, and that's totally okay. But there's no real need. There's no need to hoard. There's no need to worry about survival. There's no need to not do something, because you have complete freedom, and B, you're completely supported in the doing and the being. Okay? So food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, education are all free. You also have a universal basic income, so we're putting cash in your pocket every month. You don't have to work. There's nothing that says you have to work. It relies fully on humans being free to create authentic lives, finding something useful to do with themselves because otherwise they get bored, and living that life, living a truly authentic life. And that freedom, that idea terrifies everybody. That idea is scary. But what it does is it brings together responsibility, choice, and truth. I am fully responsible for me and my choices. Fully self-responsible for me and my choices. I am not responsible for my own survival, because I'm going to create a system that's going to allow that to exist. It's going to allow that to happen. And beyond that, I am free to take responsibility for myself, make my own choices, and create my own truth. Radical freedom includes self-responsibility. Right? Right now, if we were to toss all the rules and the external punishments and all the reward and punishment system we have, and we did all that, if we were to toss that out and not add the ability to have food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare and education for free, we would have chaos. Because survival is such a strong need right now that there's no way to radically free people without having them go into anarchy. We can't have one without the other. You can't have radical freedom while you still have people fighting to eat every day. You can't do it. You can't have that. You're going to create chaos. So that means we have to radically shift how we think about society. And I firmly believe that in 2025, there's absolutely no reason why anybody should be hungry or homeless or in poverty at all. There is no lack. So the entire thing is manufactured anyway. Right? So what we're looking for is a life outside of all of the scripts and the stories and the human rules that people tell. We're looking for a life that allows you to live in your authentic truth fully without having to worry about where your next meal comes from. While also having cash in your pocket and allowing you to decide what you want above and beyond what's already provided for you. So we're putting cash in your pocket and we're giving you choice. Real choice. Not choice based on limitation because you don't have the money, but actual choice, real choice, because money doesn't matter. The reason why that scares people so much is because of the fear that people are going to make choices they don't like. Because we're still tied into stories about morality and right and wrong and good and bad, and we have this religious idea, we do all this thing, we have all these ideas, and they're crazy. So because we have all of these ideas, and we don't want people to hurt each other, right? So the left, political left, has this idea of preventing harm. And even in philosophy, philosophers try to create systems and structures to free people. That's kind of the point of a lot of the philosophies out there, is the goal was to free people to give people choice. Nietzsche, Sartre, others, they tried to free people. Kierkegaard even tried to free people. But they were still stuck in the human rule of needing to prevent harm. We can't let people hurt each other. So when they were looking at things like morality, when they were looking at things like decision making, and they were looking at decisions from the perspective of right and wrong, they had to find a way to kind of hem people in so that they couldn't make a bad choice. So that they couldn't make a wrong choice. So that they couldn't make a choice that would hurt somebody. And ultimately, every single one of those philosophies fails because they end up having to create so many rules in order to try to contain what they perceive to be harm. The systems and societies that they were trying to create ended up stuck in the rules that they were objecting to. So it became circular. They couldn't actually live in the system. They couldn't actually give people the radical freedom they were trying to give them because they were stuck in rules around how things were supposed to be. The idea of morality, religion, and preventing harm. In order to create a truly radically free society, you have to drop those ideas. Not that they can't exist as individual constructs. You can have morality as an individual construct. You can have religion as an individual construct. You can have the idea of preventing harm as an individual construct. I'm going out in the world and it's going to be do no harm. That's how I'm going to live. I'm going to try not to hurt the people around me. Okay, cool. That's great as an individual construct. But it does not work as a societal pillar. Neither does morality, neither does religion. They don't work as societal pillars. They only work as individual pillars, as individual constructs for the individual human being. To create a radically free society, you need to get rid of those ideas as shared constructs. And then you can create a radically free society. The reality of our existing system is that it's going to collapse at some point. It's going to collapse. It's going to implode, period. It's going to implode. It's just a question of when. Not if, when. Capitalism, democracy is going to fail. No matter which side of the political spectrum you reside on, whichever side of that ends up winning, the other side feels forgotten, left out, abandoned, shut off. You're always leaving somebody out. We're always burying something. Forever burying something. And eventually, that creates resentment. You do that enough, you tell people that their feelings don't matter for long enough, and what happens? How many of us grew up being told our feelings didn't matter? You know what happens. It doesn't go well. It doesn't end well. You have a real problem later in life when you've spent your whole childhood being told that your feelings don't matter. Well, when you do it to adults in terms of politics, when you do it to adults in terms of morality or religion, when you do that to adults, it creates the same problem, just on a bigger scale. Which is why a system like democracy, where majority wins, and it's not real majority because you're not getting 100% of people to vote, so it's only a minority anyway. 53% of 80% is not a full 50%, right? So it's not a true majority. It's only a majority of the people that actually voted. Right? Which leaves out a whole lot of people. And why are people not voting? Because they're disenfranchised. It doesn't make a difference, right? That's why. That's the whole thing, right? That's why the system's going to collapse. Because that level of disenfranchisement is increasing. People are feeling more and more frustrated and the divide is getting wider. Because we continually shut off, bury, ignore, forget about, abandon the other side. That's why the system can't hold together. And it will collapse. And the question is, what do you want to have happen when it collapses? Would you like to prevent collapse? We can fix it before we get there. Or we can let it collapse and then see where we end up. That's always fun. And likely, you end up in either communism or dictatorship. The slide out of democracy is not pretty. It usually results in dictatorship, fascism, communism. But to do that, we have to have radical freedom. To do that, we have to set up a system where manufactured lack is no longer a thing, where we stop trying to control people and we actually allow people to live freely. And radical freedom terrifies people from where we are now because that means we have to allow people to hurt each other, potentially. And we really don't like that. Because we've been sold a story that says we're supposed to prevent that. That keeps you busy and under control, by the way. That's all that does. Like I said in the last episode, it makes you think you're the thing between preventing the chaos, and you're not. You're not. If there's enough water on the other side of that door, you ain't holding it back. And that's exactly where we're getting to. There's not going to be enough force to keep that door closed. At some point, no amount of standing there holding it closed is going to stop it from opening anyway. So, now I'm not suggesting we go out there and make a cause out of things. Okay? I'm not here to make a cause out of anything. Okay? I'm not suggesting political policy. What I want you to understand is that we can reimagine society completely. It doesn't have to be communism. It doesn't have to be fascist. It doesn't have to be dictatorship. It doesn't have to be democracy. It doesn't have to be any of those standard constructs that we've created. We can completely reimagine society, as I have already done. Create a completely new way of being in the world based on radical freedom and abundance, which is ever present anyway. Lack is manufactured. And we can reinvent the monetary system back to a simple system of trade so that it no longer determines your ability to survive or not. So I guess the big question is, if you're listening to me right now, how can you do that for yourself right here, right now? I can't change the world, right? I don't have that power. So how can I live more freely myself right here, right now, today? Drop the human rules. Unwind the human stories that you tell yourself. Not just in response to the pain you experience, but in response to your perception of politics and how you see the outside world. Unwind all those stories. Unwind the stories of self-defense. Unwind the stories of lack. Unwind the stories of politics. Unwind the stories of the role of government. Unwind all of those stories. Unwind the stories of morality, right and wrong, good and bad, religion. Unwind all of those stories. Break them all apart. Look for universal truth. If humans weren't here making all of this meaning, creating all of these stories, what would actually still be true? Look at how animals live. I used this example in a previous episode. Lots of animals kill for food. They kill other animals to eat. So if murder was actually bad, animals wouldn't kill each other to eat. Right? Look at how animals exist with non-judgment. Look at how animals let each other be. Dogs don't tell cats how to exist. Cats don't tell dogs how to exist. Cats might try to catch mice, but they don't try to change who they are. Dogs don't look around and say, you need to be different. Dogs don't look at each other and say, you need to be different. And you say, well, we're smarter than they are. We have to live differently. Did you ever consider that maybe that's not true? It's true in the sense that yes, we can build homes and have grocery stores and do those kinds of things. It's true in the sense that yes, we can make clothing and that kind of stuff, and we can educate ourselves and we're going to create those things. Yes, that's true. That part is true. But the idea of human judgment, the idea of stories of self-defense, the idea of pain, the idea of blame, shame, guilt, and victimization, those ideas, those stories that we tell aren't true. And we don't need them just because we have brain capacity beyond that of an animal. Telling those stories doesn't make you smart. Telling those stories doesn't make you smart. It just means you have a really good imagination. So can you live more freely today? Yeah, you can free yourself from the human rules. You can stop seeing your life circumstances as limitations. You can start seeing things differently. And then ultimately, you will free yourself. You can stop seeing yourself as trapped and stuck. You can stop. And that ultimately is how you will free yourself within the life that you're in. Right? We can't abandon things before they're actually gone. Right? As much as I would love to toss the monetary system, I can't do that. I still need money to live. So making myself a victim of money really doesn't help anything, right? So that's a story that I could tell that's not true, and it solves nothing. So what do I have to do? I have to accept the existence of the thing and find a way to be okay with it. I have to make peace with things as they are sometimes. That's really all the only control I have is learning how to make peace with things. So learn how to make peace with things that you can't change and don't have control over. Which in reality is most of the world around you. You can't change it and you don't have control over it. And fighting with it just makes you tired and mad and frustrated. So don't. Drop the fight. Drop the fight. It's a process. It's going to take you time. You're going to go around in circles just like I've done for years. You're going to spin and you're going to be fine. It takes time, but you can do it. You can learn to create your own sense of radical freedom and live outside of those human rules, which when you do would put you in that thing people call 5D. And the trick is you can have moments of being in 5D, but can you stay there? Can you stay there when life is happening? Right? We're never going for perfection, by the way. Don't ever get the idea that we're looking for perfection. You're never going to be perfectly healed. You're never going to be perfect. You're always going to make mistakes. You're still human. And there's nothing wrong with that. Be human. Do the best you can in every moment. Be human, and then don't beat yourself up when you don't get it right. You don't have to crank on yourself. And to be radically free, you can't be beating yourself up anyway. That doesn't offer you any freedom. Can you create accountability and radical freedom? Yes. But it's not an external standard of being, it's your own. It's your own intention to create self-awareness. It's your own intention to do better. It's your own intention to heal. It's your own intention. It's got nothing to do with external ideals. It's got nothing to do with something outside of you telling you you're not good enough. It's got nothing to do with the human stories around what society expects. It's got nothing to do with morality or religion or politics. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's your own internal compass that you have that isn't based on anything outside of you. And when you use that compass, you can hold yourself in alignment and you can hold yourself accountable to yourself, because that's the only thing you're accountable to is you. That's what radical freedom looks like. And I would invite you to work towards the goal of radically freeing yourself to live life in your own authentic truth, right from where you are, without changing anything around you at all. I thank you for joining me on this journey. It has been a pleasure to talk and chat with you through these 8 episodes. And I hope you'll join me for the next season of Stillhouse Reflections. Watch for it in the new year. It will be coming soon. Thank you so much, everybody. This is Della Wren with the Stillhouse Reflections. Take care. Bye for now. Thanks for spending this time with me. May these reflections stay with you and keep opening new ways of seeing until we meet again at the Stillhouse.